The only way to do great work is to love what you do. But what if your job was to wake up every day and prevent global bioterrorism? Even if it didn't know about it? What if humanity's continued existence hinged on your every effort, however small? What about the friends lost, or those who died in the line of duty? Could you still claim to love your work? Such is a question that probably haunts Leon Scott Kennedy, a veteran of the Resident Evil series, who's been present since its first widely publicized outbreak, resulting in Raccoon City's destruction. Throughout the decades, we've seen him as a specialist, an agent for the Division of Security Operations, the DSO, usually sent in alone to accomplish seemingly impossible objectives. A man of principle, yet one who effectively sold his future to really begin his journey of combating bioterrorism. How did it all begin? How did he go from one potentially world-ending incident to the next, from rookie police officer to a weathered veteran in Resident Evil Requiem? Before he even knew of Umbrella Corp or Raccoon City, Leon's childhood was one of tragedy. Raised as an orphan due to the death of his family, who were seemingly involved in a crime, it was a police officer who ultimately saved him. As the years passed, Leon decided to follow the same path, giving back to the world and serving as a protector. Idealistic? Well, sure, but it was a reflection of his human side, not out of a desire for fame. Training at the police academy and graduating at 21, he chose a rather unorthodox place to start his career. After the mysterious murders that occurred in the Arklay Mountains, which weren't a mystery to anyone with even the loosest knowledge of Umbrella, he wanted to go to Raccoon City's police department. Whether it was fate or because he truly wanted to be a hero, it's what ultimately began his journey into the abyss. Hey, that's hell you're walking into. On September 29, 1998, Raccoon City was lost. Between the National Guard retreating, Umbrella sending its own T-103s in, and the undead roaming without any restrictions, it was a nightmare for any of the survivors, who were slim and fading fast. But Leon knew none of this. Heck, our man woke up in the afternoon and didn't even have a place in the city to stay. Yes, the same place where he was posted as a police officer. Late for his first day of work, he began the long drive to Raccoon City, venturing through Arklay County and eventually reaching by nightfall after passing through some blockades. It wasn't long before he happened upon a gas station and found an abandoned police cruiser. Following the blood trail, he finds a wounded clerk and watches a police officer get bitten by a zombie. Despite shooting it in the head, it rises back up, prompting even more gunfire. Leon slays it and proceeds to leave, happening upon other zombies when the front door suddenly opens to reveal an unknown civilian. He instructs her to get down and shoots the zombie behind her, but even more rise from the dead, prompting the two to take the cruiser and escape. The woman introduces herself as Claire Redfield, who came to Raccoon City to search for her brother, Chris. They enter the city and happen upon a blockade. Zombies swarm the cruiser, but even worse is that a fuel truck is bearing down on them. One crash later, resulting in the cop car's destruction, the two are separated and plan to rendezvous at the police station. However, after days of fighting a hopeless battle, trying to help the city's people despite sabotage by their own chief, the police station held very few survivors. Leon would run into an injured Lieutenant Marvin Branagh, who saved him from a pursuing zombie and informed him of a secret passage that could lead out to the station. Despite wanting to get Branagh to a hospital, the latter ordered him to get a move on, lending him a combat knife. He also gives him one last instruction: uniform or not, take out the infected or run. Do not hesitate. Despite briefly reuniting with Claire, she's stuck on the outside and he doesn't have a key. Separating once more, he finds the secret passage leading underground and returns to help Marvin. The latter isn't keen on that though, telling Leon that it's too late and it's all up to him. While traversing Raccoon City Police Station, he continues to combat zombies and other monstrosities like a mutated William Birkin, not to mention avoiding the nigh unstoppable T-103 Tyrant sent by Umbrella. Of course, there were others caught up in the Raccoon City incident, including Ada Wong, who saves him from a zombie dog. While claiming to be an FBI agent, her true identity was that of a mercenary working for Umbrella's rival company, directly under Albert Wesker, to obtain a G-virus sample. After witnessing the death of Ben Bertolucci, a journalist who had dirt on irons, Leon obtains a parking permit to open the way forward. He's saved from Mr. X by Ada and ends up tagging along with her, eventually learning about her mission to take down Umbrella. Naturally, he wants to help, especially witnessing Robert Kendo and his daughter's fate. Venturing into the sewers, the two eventually happen upon Annette Birkin. While intending to shoot Ada, Leon jumped in front of her and he took the hit. After tending to him, Ada pursues Annette, who knocks her into a pit. Leon eventually recovers enough to give chase and save Ada from a returning William. Helping with her wounds, the two learn of the massive Nest laboratory beneath Raccoon City and take to the tram to find the G-Virus samples. With Ada's injury making her a liability in her own words, she asks Leon to recover a sample. Fighting off the infected researchers, he recovers the sample, and as the facility's self-destruct sequence begins, William arrives once more. Before Leon can do anything, Annette appears and fires at him. She then explains everything that happened, how William ended up mutated, before he suddenly rises back up and injures Annette. Leon fights back and manages to neutralize Birkin, well, for the time being, before tending to Annette. She reveals that Ada isn't an FBI agent but a mercenary who will sell the G-Virus to the highest bidder. Despite Leon's disbelief, he confronts Ada, who suddenly appears and asks for the sample to verify it. He tells her what he learned from Annette, leading to Ada pulling a gun on him. While he does the same, neither is willing to shoot the other, but Annette is more than willing to shoot Ada. She falls over the collapsing bridge, and despite Leon grabbing hold, she falls, but doesn't die. Leon reconnects with Claire, telling her to evacuate from the facility before getting cut off. He runs through the nest and encounters Mr. X once more. While evading him and descending on a lift towards the train platform, it appears once more, this time mutated. With no other choice, Leon fights him off but receives some assistance in the form of a rocket launcher. Observing him from the rafters is Ada, who tells him that they'll call it before departing. Reuniting with Claire and meeting Sherry Birkin, Annette's daughter, the trio seeks to evacuate Raccoon City by train. Things seem to be going well until a heavily mutated and enormous William attacks. Claire and Leon work together to defeat Birkin, who is left to die in the ensuing explosion. Finally, they were home free and Sherry was safe. Of course, several hours later, Raccoon City is bombed, leaving no survivors that we know. After everything that they'd been through, Leon commits to making Umbrella pay for the disaster, although he later admitted that he was just happy to have escaped alive. Still seeking her brother, Claire would depart to look for him. While Leon is still wounded, he continues looking after Sherry, and eventually the US Army finds them on the city's outskirts. Unfortunately, despite escaping one nightmare, he learns that the government isn't on his side. As it sought to persecute Umbrella while hiding its own ties in acquiring bioweapons from the corporation, it viewed Leon as a threat. Nevertheless, it still wants to dismantle the company's assets worldwide to prevent another such incident and formed the Anti-Umbrella Pursuit and Investigation Team under Stratcom. Because he displayed such incredible tenacity and survival instincts, the government wanted to recruit Leon as an agent. He was thus given a choice by Adam Benford, a key Department of Defense official who would become the US president much later. With Sherry revealed to have been infected by the G-Virus, which Claire cured with Annette's help, she was now a vital subject. Leon could either join the government's new agency to ensure her safety and keep quiet about Umbrella and any US involvement, or take his chances. Without any hesitation, he opted for the former. He didn't know it at the time, but this began his seemingly never-ending battle against Umbrella and its legacy. The offshoots, the splinter groups, and simply those who got hold of its BOWs for their own nefarious purposes. On the one hand, Leon fully intended to pursue the corporation for its role in Raccoon City, even though he admitted to simply being a rookie cop at the time with little else going for him. However, he was essentially working for an entity that was just as guilty, and that too, under duress. Whether it's to ensure her safety or out of personal shame, he would fall out of contact with Sherry over the years. In the game, fate isn't without a sense of irony though, and it wouldn't be the last time he saw of her, or as it turns out, Ada Wong. Human weapon. As part of Stratcom, Leon received specialized training, in case you ever wondered how he became so skilled in CQC. His marksmanship improved drastically, as did his stamina, making him a highly skilled BOW hunting machine. He even learned how to use knives, which Major Krauser of the United States Special Operations Command taught him are far more efficient for those close encounters. In a way, he was like the US government's answer to an Albert Wesker or even a Chris Redfield. Efficient, cool-headed, and willing to go to any length to finish a mission. Well, almost any. Despite being drafted by the government, Leon would not abandon his morals, especially when it came to helping others. Case in point, when Claire is captured by Umbrella and sent to Rockfort Island, she contacts Leon. While he couldn't help directly at the time, he passed the information to her brother. And while he wouldn't directly venture to investigate Umbrella's facilities on Sheena Island in November 1998, PI Ark Thompson was sent on his behalf. Then again, given how the latter would lose his memories, get caught up in a T-virus outbreak, battle against various infected, and fight the Hypnos tyrant to escape, you have to wonder if they're still on good terms. Leon would busy himself with other missions for Stratcom, but his biggest would be in 2002, Operation Javier in South America. The main target was Javier Hidalgo, a cartel leader who owned several bioorganic weapons and released them into the wild, spreading the T-virus to the locals. Leon was sent to find and capture Hidalgo, assisted by Krauser, who had to pursue other means to rendezvous with him. Battling past infected humans and creatures, they happened upon a massive BOW, which slayed their guide and escaped. The duo then found Manuela, later revealed to be Javier's daughter. Though terminally ill in the past, she was infected by the T. Veronica virus to ensure her survival. Her mother, who suffered from the same disease, was not so lucky. Infected by the T virus to help counteract the terminal illness, she would mutate into a monster. Unable to dispose of his wife, who didn't attack him or Manuela, Hilda was confined within the family's mansion. Furthermore, Javier took to kidnapping young people from the village, using their organs to prevent Manuela from mutating. Leon and Krauser must eventually fight the mutated Hilda, with Krauser suffering a severe arm injury in the process. Nevertheless, they succeed in defeating the BOW, who bids farewell to her daughter. Of course, before they can evacuate, Javier decides to infect himself to take Manuela back, turning into the V complex. The pair would catch up to Javier, who regained enough of his senses to be put down, rather than cause his daughter any more suffering, who was using her mutated, flammable blood to help Leon. With the mission accomplished, Leon, Krauser, and Manuela left the region. The latter was taken into custody while Krauser was discharged due to his injury. However, he seemingly found a solution: Albert Wesker, whom he heard about from Leon. News of Krauser's apparent death would reach Leon in the coming months, seemingly due to an accident, but that was far from the case. In the Darkness Falls scenario, we learn about Krauser's inner thoughts and how he feels jealous of Leon. Thus, Operation Javier becomes his main means to prove his worth. After his injury and Javier's transformation, Krauser believes this is the path to true power, thinking Leon a coward and a fool. Of course, as we later learned in the RE4 remake, Krauser had other reasons for pursuing power. Before meeting Leon, he was apparently sent in with a squad and emerged as the only survivor because the government left them to die. Following his discharge from the army, he would fake his death and set out to find Wesker and maybe the answer for his hunger for power. While Leon has yet to experience the full extent of Umbrella's atrocities, it's clear that the corporation's impact goes beyond Raccoon City. Leon is no longer the bright-eyed rookie who wanted to make a difference. Instead, he's going from one mission to the next and having to execute former humans, a reminder of those that he couldn't save. And he's pretty good at it, as we'll find out in later games, and other interludes leading up to his return in Requiem, but it's nothing he necessarily takes pride in. There are some bright spots. He can still crack jokes at least, but even with Umbrella's bankruptcy and subsequent dissolution, it was clear that other threats lay in wait. For the next 2 years, his services would remain required, but he wouldn't truly showcase just how far he'd come until 2004, when the US President Graham contacted him about a kidnapping. His daughter, Ashley, had been abducted on her way home from university and subsequently discovered to have been taken to Spain. It couldn't have happened without someone on the inside, so fearing a leak, Graham asked Leon to save his daughter. Without any hesitation, young Mr. Kennedy leapt once more into the fire, determined to sacrifice himself if need be to rescue someone. The Descent. Though assigned 2 officers from Madrid, they were slain by the villagers. After this, and dealing with no shortage of hostile mobs, Leon finally learned of the parasite, which the villagers had been infected with, turning them into hostile killing machines. And while Leon had Field Operations Support Agent Ingrid Hunnigan to coordinate with, he was effectively on his own against an army. While we've detailed the discovery of the Nyepaya kingdom and how it led to the founders of Umbrella discovering the progenitor virus, the parasite also apparently originated from here. How they ultimately made their way to Spain is unknown, but Sadler knew where to find it. By manipulating and infecting Ramon Salazar, Sadler had total control. Leon eventually finds Luis Serra, but before he could obtain any information, Torres Mendez, the village chief, appears, knocks him out, and injects him with the parasite. Upon awakening, he's chained to Luis, who reveals that he saw someone, potentially Ashley, being dragged away by the enemy. Though working together to break free, Luis escapes first, leaving the key for Leon. Afterwards, he contacts Hunnigan, asks for a background check on Sarah, retrieves his gear, and begins to pursue Ashley. Of course, it's not long before he runs into Mendez again, who chokes Leon, but suddenly, a mysterious person in red fires from outside the window. He drops Leon and slowly exits the room. Shortly after, our main man learns from Hunnigan that Luis used to be a researcher for Umbrella, and he's none too pleased. Eventually, our hero locates Ashley and discovers that she's infected. Naturally, Leon isn't interested in sticking around and continues battling against the enemies while protecting her. He eventually fights against Mendez, who's mutated. Leon emerged victorious. Unfortunately, he runs into Salazar, who says that Ashley must be there so that the United States will listen to Sadler. Fighting off Salazar's troops, Leon loses Ashley after she's seemingly mind-controlled and attacks him, but soon reunites with the person who saved him from Mendez, Ada Wong. She tells him to forget about Ashley and walk away, which he naturally refuses before resuming the hunt. Eventually, Leon reunites with her and reveals his infection. After consoling her and asking for a heads up before she tries to stab him, he's contacted by Luis, who he needs his own rescuing. Along the way, Leon and Ashley end up separated, with Salazar capturing the latter again and tossing Kennedy down a pit. He reunites with Luis, who gives him a suppressant to halt the infection. While Leon doesn't fully trust Sarah, given his past with Umbrella, Luis tells him that he wants to make amends, or something like that. They fight off more enemies before venturing through the underground tunnels via a minecart. Luis subsequently reveals that he was working with the enemies, and while helping Leon and Ashley doesn't make up for it, he's not keen on seeing anyone else get hurt. Luis is killed by Krauser, thought dead after Operation Javier. The latter steals the parasite from Sarah's corpse and reveals his role in Ashley's kidnapping before engaging in a knife battle with Leon. He reveals that during Operation Javier, seemingly before he and Leon met, as covered in the Dark Side Chronicles, his unit was abandoned by the government, and he emerged as the sole survivor. Anger at those in charge for their decision, along with everything else that happened, led to his betrayal and thirst for power as he sided with the enemies. The two engage in a knife fight, and while he gets the better of Leon and seemingly closes in on the kill, Luis intervenes despite his fatal injury, shooting at Krauser. Krauser retreats while Leon tends to Luis, who gives him a key to his laboratory, which he has tools for removing the parasite. Leon's left alone with Salazar and does the sensible thing, shoots him, and discovers a speedboat that will take him to an island with the main research facility. Ada shows up with the keys, and they venture forth. As Ada splits off to accomplish her own task, Leon eventually finds Ashley. Unfortunately, he also runs into Sadler, who reveals his plan for Ashley to infect her father. With control over the US president, Sadler could effectively take over the US. But first, he needs to deal with Leon. Controlling their parasites, he incapacitates Leon and tries commanding Ashley to shoot him, but she manages to resist. Sadler makes his exit with Ashley in tow, and Leon gives chase. Eventually, he comes across Krauser and is forced to fight him. The latter uses a parasite to mutate himself, but Leon still survives, killing his old ally. Leon and Ashley head to Luis's lab and remove the parasites. He then comes across Sadler once more, who knocks out and captures Ada. Setting her free, the two battle against him, eventually defeating him. Of course, Ada takes the parasite for herself, and while inviting Leon to join her, he declines. The island begins to blow up, but thanks to a jet ski that Ada left behind, he manages to escape with Ashley. Overall, the journey reinforces two key aspects thus far. First, even when doing what's right, there is no guarantee that everything will go his way. And second, not every outbreak or potential bioorganic weapon has to come from Umbrella or its remnants. The rest of the world is just as capable of manufacturing horrors as it is of turning ordinary people over to its will. Still, it was another important lesson for Leon, which makes his role in Requiem all the more vital. He's battled terrorists driven by science and humanity, and has emerged victorious. The problem, however, is that there's no winning, only cleaning up and fulfilling his role for the government. And no matter how many scars, both physical and mental, that he's received, the next bioterrorist threat was somewhere, waiting. A career built on containment. 2005. Bioterrorists attack Harvardville Airport, causing a T-virus outbreak and extensive chaos. Leon's timely arrival, combined with Claire Redfield, who also happened to be at the airport, allows for the situation to be brought under control. However, by the end, Leon also helped implicate WP Corporation, which had used the entire incident and a preceding outbreak for its T vaccine. 2006. Pittsburgh, where an investigation into the death of a security guard, Monica Posey, led to the reemergence of the T-virus after she turned. This quickly spiraled into a hunt for Riley Queen, the leader of a movement hell-bent on reducing the world's population. After more infections, quarantines, and mass havoc, Leon and his team finally apprehend Queen. 2006. Washington, D.C., an unknown hacker accesses the White House's files. Leon and 3 Secret Service agents are tasked with protecting President Graham, but quickly discover a new outbreak, as numerous staff members become infected. Running into Claire again, Leon was alerted to Penumstan and their link to the hacked files. En route to the country to investigate a research facility in a submarine, which is subsequently infected, Leon faces betrayal and a conspiracy masterminded by the U.S. Defense Secretary, Wilson. 2011. Adam Binford, the man who recruited Leon to Stratcom in the first place, is now president. The Division of Security Operations is formed in the wake of the Anti-Umbrella Pursuit and Investigation Unit, collecting the most elite agents and having them answer only to the president, his sword in the battle against bioterrorism. Of course, when a civil war erupts in the Eastern Slav Republic and bioweapons are involved, who else does he turn to but Leon? He also runs into Ada Wong, who remains her usual mysterious and manipulative self. If that wasn't enough, he also fights off against 2 tyrants, eventually emerging victorious, though heavily injured. While Leon's legendary status is cemented at this point, he's still essentially on his own. Other competent individuals come and go, but between the betrayals, mass outbreaks, killings, destroyed families, and so on, it's all he can do to keep going, long past the point of no return. No matter how many crises he's become involved with, the next is only a hair's breadth away, and few would truly understand the tragedy of Raccoon City or the lingering regret that he feels. Global agenda. However, almost 15 years later, President Binford reveals his shocking plan to Leon. He wants to reveal the truth about the Raccoon City incident and what happened, finally acknowledging the government's involvement with Umbrella. Unfortunately, before he could tell the world during a speech at Ivy University in Tall Oaks, he was infected by a new virus, the C virus, forcing Leon to kill him. Fighting alongside Helena Harper, a Secret Service agent, Leon realized that it was akin to Raccoon City. Old wounds flaring up at the worst possible time. Nevertheless, he followed Helena to a hidden bioweapons facility and learned of her involvement in Binford's assassination, how her sister, Deborah, was abducted to force her cooperation. This was all at the behest of Derek C. Simmons, the man on the committee who suggested Raccoon City's bombing and is now the National Security Advisor. His organization, The Family, would research bioweapons to strengthen the US and viewed Binford as a threat to be eliminated. And if that wasn't enough, an organization called Neo Umbrella has emerged. Responsible for a terrorist attack in Edonia about 6 months prior, they're led by Carla Radamez, posing as Ada Wong after experiments conducted to transform her into a clone. Her goal is revenge against Simmons, and her next target is Lianxiang in China, which is also where the former is heading. After having to put down Deborah following her mutation from the C virus, the two got in touch with Hunnigan. Learning that Simmons was listening in, they escaped, only to find that Tall Oaks had been destroyed, covering up any evidence. Nevertheless, Hunnigan got in touch again, telling them that Simmons was en route to China. Asked to report them as dead, Leon and Helena ventured after him, and between dealing with a C virus outbreak on the plane and eventually crashing, it was far from first class. However, this also put him close to Jake Mueller and Sherry Birkin. An emotional meeting was cut short due to their mission priorities. As it turns out, Simmons was Sherry's boss in the DSO. Not only that, but he was the one who kept her in protective custody after the Raccoon City incident. That G-virus sample that allowed the family to develop the C-virus, well, it was derived from Sherry's blood. In a way, this entire exchange highlighted just how bioterrorism had evolved, with those perpetrating the atrocities so far ahead in terms of information, manipulation, and subterfuge, not unlike the original Umbrella. Teaming up with Jake and Sherry to take down Ustanak, Leon and Helena would eventually be separated with plans to rendezvous at Kunlun. Before that, however, they spotted Carla and pursued her to a confrontation with Chris Redfield and Piers Nivens. Both were after her for the tragedy in Edonia, but before Chris could pull the trigger, Leon intervened. Despite their friendship, the two struggled and had a war of words, with the former wanting to kill Carla, while Leon said she was a key witness and revealed that Simmons was the mastermind. While Carla made her escape and Chris pursued, promising that he wouldn't hurt her, Leon and Helena continued to Kunlun to eventually confront Simmons. Sherry and Jake would join them, and after some tense admissions, Simmons attacked them. However, it turns out his family wasn't forever, and he was shot from long range and infected with the C virus. While Sherry and Jake made their escape, Leon and Helena pursued Simmons. After a citywide battle, they finally defeated the mutated Simmons, but it's far from over. Not only were Sherry and Jake kidnapped by Neo Umbrella, but the latter launched a missile with the C virus that detonated over Tachi, which Chris was too late to stop. Leon would learn that Carla was dead, unaware at this point that she wasn't the real Ada Wong, and he set forth with Helena to help whoever they could. Eventually, with the BSAA's help, they escape and arrive at the Quad Tower. Disoriented by a gas tanker explosion, shades of his arrival in Raccoon City, they would be saved by none other than the real Ada Wong in a helicopter. They then discover Simmons is alive. He mutates again, but with Ada's assistance, they manage to subdue him once more. He's far from done, though, battling Ada on the roof of the building. Leon and Helena arrive in the nick of time and would dispatch Simmons yet again. And good thing, because Simmons was back again. Using the helicopter that Ada left behind, they managed to electrocute him with a lightning rod. Despite this, he still would not give up. With the help of a rocket launcher that happened to be lying around in the helicopter in classic Resident Evil fashion, they repelled Simmons, sending his body careening to its final death. The aftermath of all of this, including Jake's blood being the key to neutralizing the C virus, Leon ultimately makes good with Helena, despite her involvement in Binford's death. What you should remember going into Requiem. Quote, "When I was a kid, I used to think about the kind of man I'd grow up to be. I never thought my life would turn out this way." The sad part about that statement is how true it rings, especially as Leon ventured to stop another outbreak in 2014 in New York, and then another in 2015 in Alcatraz, where he at least had assistance from Jill Valentine, Rebecca Chambers, and Claire. In Resident Evil Requiem, however, he's all alone, once again. Yes, he crosses paths with Grace every so often and has someone assisting him over radio, but he's now come full circle, back to the origins of his lifelong trauma. Even the death of the one who ordered the city's destruction, or the dismantling of the corporation responsible, hasn't proven to be the end. And yet, as much as it exacts an emotional toll, it hasn't dulled Leon's desire to help people. Well, except that one nurse in the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, but I digress. While Leon is at his strongest and most capable in Requiem, he's not some superhuman that's raised his power level through each new outbreak, but more of a tempered blade, forged through conflict and capable of shattering at any moment. Whether that happens or not, and whether we witness a hero's legacy coming to an end, there is no denying that he's most suited for the task. Maybe he'll find some emotional closure in other ways. But if Leon's story proves anything, it's that there's only one thing more terrifying than walking into a nightmare, and that's walking out alive to meet the next.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.